What's up, everybody? Where are my scenes? I just realized I don't have my thumbnail on the video. I'm live. Uh, how can I change my thumbnail to the one I want? And how can I see my... Oh, I need better lighting. I'm going to download this page. Page 14, done, download. This is the software engineering hotline. All right, how do I open up my chat box? Whoops. How do I see who's chatting? Settings. YouTube Live control panel. Oh yeah. Chat. Chit. Chit. Hello, Chit. Alright, guys. Today we're going to be doing some LeetCode problems. I got a list of them here that I got to do. I'm going to try getting to number 11 by the end of the night tonight, and I'll be taking your calls while I do them. So if you are interested in giving me a holla, talking about the software engineering hotline, just jump in and let's chat. So string compression. Start with this. Give an array characters, compress it using the following algorithm. And let me get my book. Begin with an empty string for each group of consecutive repeating characters in car. Make this even. Make this bigger. Okay. The group's length is 1. Append the character to S. Otherwise, append the character followed by the group's length. The compressed string S should not be returned separately, but instead be stored in the input array chars. Notice that the group lengths that are 10 or longer will be split into multiple characters in chars. After you're done modifying the input array, return the new length of the array. You must write an algorithm that only uses constant extra space. That's O of 1. The characters in the array beyond the return length do not matter and should be ignored. Okay, so let's see. The input is chars A, B, B, C, C, C. So return 6 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to need to have a result equals this. That's going to be where I store my output, but I should also have yeah, so for char and chars. My idea of how I'm going to solve this problem is I'm going to iterate over the list of values over here using 2 pointers, and I'm going to, for every repeated value, store the amount of times that that value appears, and then I'm going to remove every value. I'm going to replace that value with all of the values after that first one. So I will have 2 pointers here. Let's see if I have a, can I do Excalibur here? Let me do this. I want to work each of these. We're going to say for I, A, B, B, C, C, C. So I'm going to count 1, 2, and I'm going to replace all of the extra values with the count. I'm going to have a pointer starting here, and then another one that goes out to here, and this one's going to store the index or the amount, the count, and then I'm going to clear the count for every time it increases. So it'll be A2, comma, B2, comma, C3. And the way that it's going to do that is it's going to have I and J, and then I is going to move to the value after here, and I is going to move to the value after here, and then the amount of steps that this takes is 1, 2, and then yeah, I'll have a new list or array over here that will store all of the data points. Okay. So let's see what I can find online about this. Let me YouTube search up.
Hello and welcome. Today we're doing another question from LeetCode75, and I have the whole playlist linked in my channel as well as down below if you want to check it out. So what is this question? It is string compression. We're given an array of characters and we want to compress it using the following algorithm. Begin with an empty string s, and for each group of consecutive repeating characters in chars, if the group's length is 1, we simply append the character to s. Otherwise, we append the character followed by the group's length, the number of times it's repeated. The compressed string s should not be returned separately, but instead be stored.
I forgot about the addition part.
In the input array itself. Note that the group lengths that are 10 or longer will be split into multiple characters in chars. After you're done modifying the input array, return the new length of the array. You must write an algorithm that uses only constant extra space. Okay, so what are we doing? Let's take a look at example 1 over here. We have AA, BB, CCC. We want to compress it. So we're going to see we have A over here, but it repeats twice. So instead of writing AA, we're going to write the character that we had and the number of times it's repeated. So it's going to be A followed by 2. Then we have B, and we see that twice as well. So it's going to be B followed by the number of times it's appeared. And we have 3 C's over here. So it's going to be C and then the number 3. And all of this is happening in place. So the array would actually be A, then 2, then B, then 2, then C, and then 3. And all the remaining characters that are left in the end will just stay as is. We just want to return the length of that compressed string in the end. So we're going to return.
That's a good point. You got to return the length. compressed string.
And 6. We only want to look at the first 6 characters of our array. And example 2, we have just the character A. Now we just want to leave this as it is. We don't want to use the character A followed by a 1 because that's not compressing it, that's making it bigger. If we have just a single character, we're just going to leave that to be. And example 3, we have 1A followed by 12 B's. So A is going to be as it is. We don't need to follow that up with a number. And we're going to write B and the number of times we've seen it. We've seen it 12 times. So we're going to write 1 and then 2 as separate strings. And that's what this part of the description was talking about. Note that group lengths that are 10 or longer will be split into multiple characters. We split 12 into 1 and then 2 and write that as a string. Okay, to solve this problem, say we had the following input array over here. We have 3 A's and a B and then 2 C's. What do we want our final output to look like? And I'm going to copy paste this down below so we can use this to modify our input. And this.
Yeah, what do we want our final input to look like? So after you hit that first letter, you're going to want to change the second letter to the count of the repeated letter over here. So for car and cars, if A or if car can I do that? Let's see.
This can just stay as a reference. We know we have 3 A's, so we're going to have A followed by the number 3. Then we have B by itself. And then we have 2 C's, so it's going to be C followed by the number 2. We don't really touch any of the later characters. And in the end, after modifying this in place, I want to return the length of our modified input. So it's going to have a length of 5. So we modify this in place and return our length. So how are we going to solve this? We know we want to be iterating through our input chars and keep track of the same repeating characters we've seen. So if we come across an A and we come across 3 of them, we're going to insert an A over here in that first position.
Well, for this, should the count be 1 or should the count be 2? So if the character is the same as the last character, it should technically be 2. So we can set count to 0.
Followed by the number. Then we see our next character group. It has just a length of 1, so we just put that character in here. And we see our next character group. It has a length of 2, and the character itself is C, so we first put the character, then the number. So if you notice, we're going to need actually 2 pointers, right? One to iterate through our array, and one to keep track of our insert positions. And actually, I think for this problem in particular, it's going to be best if we talk through it out loud as we code it up, because it's going to show not just how to solve the problem, but how to think about solving the problem. So to get to the code right away, what we want to do is iterate through our input here, and we're going to be wanting to jump around after we have groups made, right? So we don't want to use a for loop, we're going to use a while loop. So I'm going to initialize.
While loop with pointers? Confused on why we would use a while loop.
My I to be 0, and while I is less than the length of chars, so I starts off at index 0 over here, we want to see how many repeating characters we have. So right now, our group length is just 1. We have 1 of the same characters, and we want to see how far out we can repeat to. So our index right now is 0. We want to see our own index plus the group length which would put us at index 1, if it has the same character that we do. So while group plus I, first of all, we want to make sure this is less than our length of our input. So we want to make sure the index we're checking is in bounds. So if this is true, and the character at the index we are checking is the same as the one we have at index I, so chars of group plus I, if this is equal to chars at index I, we are going to increase that group.
Here where I could put notes here, but I guess I can't put notes here, so let me just... I equals 0. So she uses a while loop.
And group it up through our array, and one to keep track of our insert positions. And actually, I think for this problem in particular, it's going to be best if we talk through it out loud as we code it up, because it's going to show not just how to solve the problem, but how to think about solving the problem. So to get to the code right away, what we want to do is iterate through our input here, and we're going to be wanting to jump around after we have groups made, right? So we don't want to use a for loop, we're going to use a while loop. So I'm going to initialize my I to be 0, and while I is less than the length of chars, so I starts off at index 0 over here, we want to see how many repeating characters we have. So right now, our group length is just 1. We have 1 of the same characters, and we want to see how far out we can repeat to. So our index right now is 0. We want to see our own index plus the group length, which would put us at index 1, if it has the same character that we do. So while group plus...
Wait, hold on. What did she say?
So we don't want to use a for loop, we're going to use a while loop. So I'm going to initialize my I to be 0, and while I is less than the length of chars, so I starts off at index 0 over here, we want to see how many repeating characters we have. So right now, our group length is just 1. We have 1 of the same characters, and we want to see how far out we can...
So she is saying that it's always going to be set to 1. That's kind of the idea that I had. I'm just gonna, so I can see it.
Can repeat to. So our index right now is 0. We want to see our own index plus the group length, which would put us at index 1, if it has the same character that we do. So while group plus I, first of all, we want to make sure this is less than our length of our input. So we want to make sure the index we're checking is in bounds. So if this is true, and the character at the index we are checking is the same as the one we have at index I, so chars of group plus I, if this is equal to chars at index I, we are going to increase that group length. So group plus equals 1. So right now what is happening, group is size 1, index I starts at 0, while group plus I, so 1 plus 0.
Okay, hold up, slow down, slow down. So while I is less than length of, so that means I'm iterating over the entire list of here. And the group value, which is going to be the value that I'm going to replace this here, is dependent on... Where'd that go? Where'd that go? What? Huh? Oh, here. Is dependent on... While group plus I, which is 0, is less than the length of characters, which makes sense because I believe the length of characters has to be less, because that means it's like iterating over the entire thing. And characters group plus I, or is it group plus 1? I think it's group plus 1 because that's the next in the index, equals characters I, even though there's no...
This index over here, index 1, is less than the length of our input. That is true, it's within bounds. And the character we have at this index, so A equals what we have at index I. A equals A, that is true. So we're going to increase our group size by 1. Group is now 2. We go back in our while loop. Group plus I, so 2 plus 0 is index 2 over here. This is within bounds, and the character here is the same character we have at I. So we're going to increase that group length again.
Okay.
Group is now 3. Going back in this while loop, 3 is within bounds, but the character here, B, is not the same one we had at I, so we exit out of this while loop. So now we know the character we have and the number of times we've seen it. Now we just need to insert it in. So our first insert position is going to be index 0, so I'm going to have insert being 0. And at this position, so chars of insert, I'm going to set it equal to the character I have at index I. So chars of I. So at insert at index 0, we're going to put in what we have at index I, which is A. So it's just going to stay as it is. Now I want to move insert down so I can put in the number of times I've seen A.
So insert starts at the point in which chars is at. So that means that if after we count, we have this pointer I. So yeah, so this used to be here. And there's also I over here.
So I'm going to do insert plus equals 1, which means insert is now at index 1. Now, what do I want to do? I want to put in a number at this insert position only if my group length is bigger than 1. If we've only seen one character, we don't want to follow it up with a number. But if we've seen more than one character, we do want to follow it up with a number. And that number could be single digit or more than that single digit. So we need to figure out how many places our number is going to take up. So the first thing we want to do is see the number of times we've seen our character. And that is going to be stored in our group length. So if group is greater than 1, we've seen it.
We're going to change the index of this. Chars I equals is it the group?
It more than once. Now we want to know the number of places we're going to need to write in our number. So we're going to convert our number over here, group, to be a string. So string is going to equal the string version of group. So string over here is 3. Now say, for example, string was 12. We would need to break it up into 1 and 2 and place it in 2 positions. So what we're going to do is take the substring of our input from insert to however long that string length is. So chars at insert up until insert plus length of our string. So right now insert is 1. So we're going to start at this position and we're going to go up until insert plus length of string. So we're going to go from index 1 to 2 not inclusive, which means we're just going to modify this index over here. But if string was 12, then the length of our string would be 2, and we would go from index 1 to index 3. So we would take up these 2 places over here. So what do we want to assign our substring over here? We want this to be that string broken up. So I'm going to convert our string back into a list. So I'm breaking that string up into a list, which means if we had 12, it would now be 1, 2, which means we would put in 1 over here and 2 over here, right? But it is not 12, it is 3. So instead, what we're doing at this position over here, we're just going to add 3 over here. So now we've put in our character as well as the number of times we've seen it. What's next? We want to move our insert down. So where are we moving insert to? Insert is going to be plus equals the length of our string. So length of string. And why is that, right? Right now, our string length is just 1. So insert moves to 2. But if it was 12 and had a length of 2, so this was 1 and 2, we want to move insert down over here. We want to move past that number. So it's going to be insert plus equal string. And let me reset this. So we're back at 3 and insert being over here. And now the final thing left to do is to move I down. And where do we want to move I down? So we covered that entire group of repeating characters. We want to move past that. So I is going to be plus equals group, the number of characters we've had that were repeating. So group was 3, which means we're moving I to index 3. So I is over here, and our next insert position is index 2. So we go back in this while loop. I is still less than the length of our characters. Group is back to being 1, and we make a check, right? Group plus I, so 3 plus 1 puts us at index 4. This is within bounds. It's less than the length of our input chars. This should be S over here. And we also want to check to make sure the character at group plus I, this should be I over here, is the same character that we have at chars of I. That is not true, right? What we have at index 4 is not equal to what we have at index 3, which is I. So we don't increase that length of the group. And instead we add in our insert position the character we have right now at index I. So here it's going to be B, and we move insert down. So insert is over here, and we make a check if group greater than 1. That's not true, right? Group length was 1, so we don't need to add in the number. So all we're going to do now is move I down. So I plus the length of our group which is 1. So we're moving I down by 1. Going back in this while loop for one final time, group length is back to 1. And we make a check. Group plus I. So 1 plus index 4, that's 5. This is within bounds, and it has the same character that we had at index I. So we're going to increase that group length by 1. So group is now 2. We go back in this while loop. 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 is not less than the length of our characters. We have 6 characters in total. So we don't go in this while loop, and we assign at insert the character we have at I. So C is over here, and we move insert down. It is now at index 4, and group is greater than 1, so string is going to be the string version of group, which is 2. And from insert up until insert plus length of our string. So from 4 to index 5, and this is not inclusive, so it's just going to be the position 4 over here. We're going to take our string, make it a list, and insert it over here. So we have 2 over here, and we're going to move insert down to be past that length of the string we just added. That was a length of 1, so we're moving insert down to be index 5. And we move I down past the sides of our group. Group was 2, so 4 plus 2 is going to be 6, which means I is now at index 6. We go back in our while loop. I is no longer less than the length of our characters, so we are done. And we exit out of our while loop, and we can see we've modified our input array. This is exactly what we were expecting over here, right? When we did this example in the very beginning. Now, the only thing left to do after modifying it is return that length that we have. So what do we want to return? We know insert is going to be positioned right after that modification is done. So it's always going to be the index after that ending point. So right now it is at index 5, but we ended at index 4. And the length of anything in Python, because it's 0 index, is always going to be 1 plus the index that we have. So we are going to return insert, which is 5, and that is the length of our modification. So let's go ahead and submit this. And it is accepted. Now, talking about space and time complexity. For time, we are iterating through our entire input chars. So this is going to be...
Okay, I need to break this down a little bit more. So while group plus I is less than length of chars and chars group plus I equals chars I group plus equals 1. So this handles counting up the duplicate letters. And this is a second pointer that follows where I ends. So now, if group is greater than 1, the string, you turn the number into a string, and then you insert at the point of insert, which is like the index of which you're inserting. You insert this plus the length of the string over here. Goes list string. Okay. I'm gonna ask.
Be O of n if there are n elements in our input. And for space, we're doing all of our modifications in place, right? We're not using any extra space, just as we were expecting. So space is going to be O of 1, and time is going to be O of n. So we just went ahead and solved string compression, but if you have any questions with this whatsoever, of course, let me know down below. I will answer all of them. If this video was helpful, like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really supports the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next one.
2 main pointers. I moves to the original list cars, and insert marks position where we write the compressed result back to cars. So starts at I equals 0, insert starts at I equals 0. Count how many times the variable the current character repeats in the row. While group is less than group counts duplicates in a while loop. I points to the start of the current run of characters. Group represents how many characters in the row so far. So this checks, is the next character the same as the one we are currently counting? So this is like the one after it. But I don't understand why it goes back to I. I is 0, so chars I equals A. Group 1 is I. Should count the A. Plus I. 1 plus 0 equals char 0, so the 0, A equals A true, so we enter group 1 plus 0. Oh, okay, yeah, so the next one after this is 1. What's up, everybody? How's it going? So that is A. Now we check cars group I equals cars I, cars 2 plus O. That's true. So in group it's group down, group is 3. So after the next value after this is false, and then stop. This handles counting the duplicate numbers. If the number after I is the same as the previous, we add to group. Okay, now I can go back to here and understand this a little bit more. Okay, so now write the character to a compressed array. Chars insert equals cars I. So always write the character once, no matter how many duplicates it has. Yes, so what this does is at the insert point, at the insert point, cars I can you explain this? So at 0 equals I. I'm guessing what this does. Here, I can also do this. So I'm guessing what this does is it allows the insert to follow the cars pointer. Take the character, pointer R. Then right after, you move one step forward. The very beginning, I equals 0, insert equals 0. Move 3 and write A, 0, 0. Is the writer copies that character over. Next, we're in group 3, also write group 3. Oh yeah, so insert plus equals 1 equals car. Okay. Yes, I want to see a visual. I love visuals. I insert equals car 0, 0. Is 1. So now insert increases by 1. Hold up, what? Count group of B, start I equals 3. I think this is incorrect. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, that makes no sense. AI sucks. It's official, guys. I just said so. This one is a toughie to understand. And it's killing me. It's kind of killing me because I need to do a lot more problems, and the fact that I don't understand this is killing me. Let's see. Is there another solution that can help me?
Hey everyone, welcome back, and let's write some more neat.
Hello and welcome. So I'm going to convert our string back into a list. So I'm breaking that string up into
Yeah, couldn't I have used 2 pointers here? Why so much drama with this problem?
a list, which means if we had 12, it would now be 1. Okay. Let's not get too sad about it. Point is, if group is greater than 1, and this replaces where it is. 1, 2, which means we would put in 1 over here to 2 sub in our character. And that is going to be stored in our. I want to have at index I, so chars of insert. I'm going to set it equal to the character I have at index I, so chars of I. So at insert at index 0, we're going to put in what we have at index I, which is A, so it's just going to stay as it is. Now I want to move insert down so I can put in the number of times I've seen A. So I'm going to do insert plus equals 1, which means insert is now at index 1. Now, what do I want to do? I want to put in a number at this insert position only if my group length is bigger than 1. If we've only seen one character, we don't want to follow it up with a number. But if we've seen more than one character, we do want to follow it up with a number. And that number could be single digit or more than that single digit. So we need to figure out how many places our number is going to take up. So the first thing we want to do is see the number of times we've seen our character, and that is going to be stored in our group length. So if group is greater than 1, we've seen it more than once. Now we want to know the number of places we're going to need to write in our number. So we're going to convert our number over here, group, to be a string. So string is going to equal the string version of group. So string over here is 3. Now say, for example, string was 12. We would need to break it up into 1 and 2 and place it in 2 positions. So what we're going to do is take the substring of our input from insert to however long that string length is. So chars at insert up until insert plus length of our string.
Just 2.
So right now insert is 1. So we're going to start at this position and we're going to go up until insert plus length of string. So we're going to go from index 1 to 2 not inclusive, which means we're just going to modify this index over here. But if string was 12, then the length of our string would be 2, and we would go from index 1 to index 3. So we would take up these 2 places over here. So what do we want to assign our substring over here? We want this to be that string broken up. So I'm going to convert our string back into a list. So I'm breaking that string up into a list, which means if we had 12, it would now be 1, 2, which means we would put in 1 over here and 2 over here, right? But it is not 12, it is 3. So instead, what we're doing at this position over here, we're just going to add 3 over here. So now we've put in our character as well as the number of times we've seen it. What's next? We want to move our insert down. So where are we moving insert to? Insert is going to be plus equals the length of our string. So length of string. And why is that, right? Right now, our string length is just 1. So insert moves to 2. But if it was 12 and had a length of 2, so this was 1 and 2, we want to move insert down over here. We want to move past that number. So it's going to be insert plus equal string. And let me reset this. So we're back at 3 and insert being over here. And now the final thing left to do is to move I down. And where do we want to move I down? So we covered that entire group of repeating characters. We want to move past that. So I is going to be plus equals group, the number of characters we've had that we're repeating. So group was 3, which means we're moving I to index 3. So I is over here, and our next insert position is index 2. So we go back in this while loop. I is still less than the length of our characters. Group is back to being 1, and we make a check, right? Group.
Hold up. I feel like there's so many different ways to do this problem, and it's really, like, annoying me. So, let's look at what this guy said. Initialize the empty list to store the results. Let's comment this out. And push this all the way down. And this doesn't use any pointers. I feel like I can wrap my head around this one already a little bit more. Result is just empty array, n equals length of characters, I equals 0. While I is less than n, which is the length of characters, characters equals characters I, count equals 0. Count the number of occurrences of the current character, while I is less than n, and cars I equals car, which is the thing that we are iterating over, or if this is the same, count plus equals 1, append the character to the result. If the count is greater than 1, append the digits to the count. Overwrite the original cars array with the result. Return the new length of the... Yeah, because all they want is the length. Okay. I'm just going to go with the other solution. Yeah, let me just control Z it. Control Z. If group is greater than 1, string equals string group.
Group plus I, so 3. We want to move past that. So I is going to be insert plus equal string and had.
Can you explain this part a little bit more, please? if group is greater than 1. Yep. Yep, yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep. Takes the string 1, 2. So I don't understand, where does this come from? Where does this 12 come from? I know it's like the length of that. It's the index of the 2 points, but where is that being recorded? This group equals 1. Okay, so then why are we using 12 as an example? Okay, now I understand it. Why did it use 12 and deep T? Does that mean that she was using AI? I don't even know. That video was made years ago, so probably not. But all right, I understand this one a little bit more now. String compression. I don't like this problem at all. I think it's stupid. But you do what you got to do. Description. Flip it, shit. Flip it. I don't like that it, So this is pointers, insertion, while loops. Man, I thought I was going to be able to do more problems than this, bro. I'm cooked. Cooked. Alright. Max number of k-sum pairs. You're given an integer array nums. Well, integer array nums and an integer k in one operation. Oh, I'm getting up on my knees. You give an integer array nums and integer k. In one operation, you can pick 2 numbers from the array whose sum equals k and remove them from the array. Return the maximum number of operations you can perform on the array. number 1 and 4, then nums 2 and 3. Oh, okay. 10's a total operation. That's a weird question. All right, let's see if I can solve this. So we have nums 1, 2, 3, 4, and k equals 5. So basically, we got to find every single way that k can equal 5, starting from the outer to moving to the inner. So what we can do is we can look at, let's see. K equals 6. Is there any, like, guarantees here? No. 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, so anything that equals 6. So what we can do is we can subtract. This is kind of like 2-sum in the sense that you can take the first value over here. You could say 5 minus 1, right? And, okay, equals, 4. 4 is in here. You could say, like that's the number that I want to remove. And then you say, remove these two numbers. But only if this value, there's a value that hits this. So for the next one, we could also like iterate through. We'll just start again with 2 and 3. 5 minus 2. If the value 3 is now in here, then remove these as well. And total of 2 operations. Return the maximum number of information. Return the maximum number of information. I'm going to say this is 0. I'm going to say the target nums and then k. Okay, so for num in nums, target minus or it's k minus num equals target. Right? So that's just iterating over the points in there, but I also want to iterate over. It looks like I'm not wearing pants. I am wearing pants. I'm wearing shorts. For num in nums, k minus num equals target. Equals target. If target in nums del num and num target. Nums num and nums target. That makes sense. But I don't think I have the actual index here of what I'm trying to do. So like I'm iterating over the values, but not the actual indexes. So should I do enumerate? So it has values attached to it. Value minus value equals target. Takes way too long to run. Isn't delete how you remove? Python. Remove. What's that equal sign doing there? Bro! Oh, is it value? Can I do this? I don't think that's the right syntax. Yeah. Alright, where am I going wrong? Hmm. Huh. Yeah, you're right. I should have hash map. Does sound like a good idea. Counter hash map though? Shouldn't it just be a hash set? Excuse me. Turn off my AC. It's cold. Let's see. Alright, I want to have somebody else explain it to me with words. Wait a minute, this is Yap's world. This is not neat code.
Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial. Today
Man, maybe I'm getting too deep here.
Hello and welcome. Today we're doing another question from LeetCode75. It's a playlist that's really useful if you are interview prepping, and I have it linked down below if you do want to follow along. So what is this question? It's called max number of k-sum of pairs, and you are given
Default dict sounds like a good idea.
an integer array nums and an integer k. In one operation, you can pick two numbers from the array whose sum equals k and remove them from the array. Return the maximum number of operations you can perform on the array. Example 1, k is 5, and we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. We want to pair up all numbers that sum up to 5 and remove them from the array. So we have 1 and 4 that we can pair up, so that's one pair, and 2 and 3, so that is our second pair. So our output is going to be 2. And example 2, we have 3, 1, 3, 4, 3, and k is 6. We want to pair up all numbers that sum up to 6. So we have 1, 3 here, and 1, 3 we can use as one pair. We do have to remove it from the array, which means we can't reuse those numbers, and we're going to be left with 1, 4, and 3. Now with these numbers, we can't really pair up anything to sum up to 6, So our only pair was the 3, 3, and our output is 1. So we want to solve max number of k-sum pairs. This question is actually pretty simple and straightforward. We know we want to make pairs that sum up to k, and
Let me try the 2-pointer. L, comma, R equals 0, comma, length nums minus 1. Right, that should be the last point. This just
once we make a pair, we don't want to reuse any of those numbers again. So
if L plus R equals K, output plus equals 1.
what if we just kept track of all the numbers we've seen? So say I have example 2 again. I have nums being 3, 1, 3, 4, 3, and k is 6. What I'm going to do is in a dictionary just store all the numbers I've seen and their corresponding counts. So I have D over here, and I come across a 3 first. I'm going to see if a k minus 3 exists in my dictionary.
That's what I thought originally.
If so, I'm going to pair it up with this 3 that I am on. Now, nothing is in our dictionary, so of course k minus 3 is not going to be in there, which means I'm just going to go ahead and add in my own number to be used for a future number. So right now, we've seen 1, 3 in our input nums. Next, I come across this one over here. Again, I'm going to make the same check. K minus 1 is 5 in our dictionary. It isn't. So instead, I'm just going to add my own element to the dictionary and increase that count by 1. Now, our current count for 1 is 0, so our new count is going to be 1. We've seen 1, 1, and 1, 3 so far. Now, I come across this 3. K minus 3 is 3, and it is in my dictionary. So what I'm going to do if I find k minus my own number in the dictionary is add 1 to the number of pairs. We can now make a pair that sums up to k. So right now, pairs is going to equal 1. We were able to make 1 pair. And I'm going to decrease the count of the number I'm using. Since I am making a pair with this number, it's no longer available for any other number to use. So I'm going to remove this. It's now at 0. And I go to my next number. It's a 4. Is k minus 4 is 2 in our dictionary? It's not. So I go ahead and add 4 in. We've seen 1, 4. And the reason we're adding in numbers is if we come across a number in the future that can use our own number to pair it up, we want to make sure that we show we've seen it and it's available to use. Now we come across a 3 over here. And we want to check, is k minus 3 in our dictionary? We see that its value is 0. We haven't had any 3s to pair up with our own 3 because the previous 3s were already paired up and removed. So what we do is just add 1 more to our 3. So we've seen 1, 3 again at this point. Now, since we are done going through nums, we've finished everything that we could pair up with, and we know we're only left with 1 pair that we have. So that is how we are going to solve this question. Now let's go ahead and code this up and then do a complete walkthrough with an example. Okay, so now we know our logic, we just need to go ahead and code it up. So what I'm going to do is from collections, import a default dictionary. Now a default dictionary is different from a regular dictionary in that it already implicitly defines a value for any key that we want. So instead of checking if a key exists in our dictionary and then increasing that count by 1, we can just do plus equals 1 directly, and you're going to see that in a little bit as we code it up. But a default dictionary just reduces the number of lines of code that we need. It does a lot of the functions implicitly for us. So I'm going to define D to be our default dictionary of integers. So by default, all the values are going to get 0 to start off with because this is an integer default dictionary. So now we want to loop through
Sorry, DT.
1. We can just do plus equals 1 directly, and you're going to see that in a little bit as we code it up. But a default set. So now let's go ahead and code. So that is how we are going to solve this question. Now let's go ahead and code this up and then do a complete walkthrough with an example. Okay, so now we know our logic, we just need to go ahead and code it up. So what I'm going to do is from collections, import a default dictionary. Now, a default dictionary is different from a regular dictionary in that it already implicitly defines a value for any key that we want. So instead of checking if a key exists in our dictionary and then increasing that count by 1, we can just do plus equals 1 directly, and you're going to see that in a little bit as we code it up. But a default dictionary just reduces the number of lines of code that we need. It does a lot of the functions implicitly for us. So I'm going to define D to be our default dictionary of integers. So by default, all the values are going to get 0 to start off with because this is an integer default dictionary. So now we want to loop through our input nums. So for number in nums, what do we want to do? We want to see if k minus our number is in the dictionary and has a value greater than 0.
Greater than 0?
So if D of k minus number is greater than 0, we know we can make a pair. So we're going to increase the count of pairs by 1. Pairs plus equals.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Greater than 0? Why is it greater than 0? What does greater than 0 have to do with anything? If it's greater than 0, that just means that it's like a value, right? So it's like if I do k, which is what it should add up to.
1. And we also want to initialize pairs to be 0 before.
Like, shouldn't it be the value that it's like subtracting?
So we've initialized our pair, we've incremented that count for pair, but we also want to remove that number we are pairing up with. So D of k minus num is going to be minus equals 1. Since we are pairing it, we want to remove it so no other element can use it, again, as a pair. Now, if that's not the case, if D of k minus num is not greater than 0, it means we haven't found a pair and we want to add our own number to our dictionary. So else what we're going to do is D of num is going to be plus equals 1. And again, this is a default dictionary, so we don't need to define it first and then increment that count if it doesn't already exist. By default, it is going to be there. And in the end, all we have to do is just return our pairs. So let's go ahead and submit this. And it is accepted. Now we're going to do a super quick walkthrough with an example just so we can go through our code line by line, visualize it, and really see it all come together. For our code walkthrough, we're going to be using example 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 as input nums and k being 5. So going through this line by line, the first thing we do is define our default dictionary and then initialize pairs to be 0. Now we're looping through for our input nums. For number in nums, we start off with 1. We make a check if k minus n is greater than 0 in our dictionary. So does the key of 4, k minus 1, which is 4, does that key have a value greater than 0? It's not even in our dictionary, so of course it doesn't have a value greater than 0. So instead we go in this else. We're adding our number, which is 1, to our dictionary. And we're incrementing its count by 1. By default, it is 0, so now we have 1, 1. Going back in this loop, we are now at num being 2. Again, we make the same check, k minus num, that's 3. Is D of 3 greater than 0? It's not even in our dictionary, so again, we're just adding our own number of 2 to our dictionary and increasing the count by 1. So we've seen 1, 2, and 1, 1 so far. Going back in our for loop, we have n being 3, and k minus 3 is 2, so is d of 2 greater than 0? That is true, right? We have at least 1, 2. So what we're doing is now pairing it up with our number. We're incrementing that count of pairs.
Oh, I see. So it's going to the actual value in the default dictionary, not the value inside the list. So it's saying, yeah, 1, 1, 2, 1, k minus, but at 3, k minus 3 equals 2, k is in there. But I don't understand why it's greater than 0.
And so what we're doing is now greater than 0. That is true, right? We have and k minus 3 is 2, so is d of 2 greater than 0?
Oh, so yeah, d of 2, so that's like the actual indexing amount.
That is true, right? We have at least 1, 2.
That means, yeah,
so
you have
what
at
we're
least
doing
1,
is now
2.
pairing it up with our number. We're incrementing that count of pairs. And since we are pairing it up with our own number, we are going to decrease this count by 1. So now we have 0 2s available. Going back in this for loop, we are now at number 4. So k minus 4 is 1. Is d of 1 greater than 0? It is. So we are able to pair them up. So our new pairs count is going to go up by 1. We now have 2. And d of k, using its own number, is going to be removed because it's going to be paired up. Anyway, so once we finish going in this if, we don't go in this else. Go back in this for loop, but there are no more numbers for us to iterate over. We exit out of here and we return pairs, which is just 2. And that is exactly what we if in, it's going to be removed. We don't have any more ones available to and for this solution.
Yeah, so it doesn't even go to these other values over here. It just goes to here. 2, 0, 1, 0.
For time, we do iterate over every single number in our input. So this is going to be O of n if there are n elements in our input nums. And for
Whoa, oh yeah. That's because I can click this. Get out of there. Okie dokie. What's this? Okay, so submit this one. Let's explain what it is. So this is default dict. It's like hash map. Oh, then time complexity. Should I try for one more? I kind of want to take a break. I said I was going to do 5, and I just went through 2. And I've already been at it for an hour. This string compression one, I think, was a bad problem, honestly. But today, I've done only 3. Wow. Okay. It's actually not. Or 4, I guess. It's not a lot. Let's see if I can push through and do 2 more. the split slice. Man, okay. I am tired. I need to take a break. Hi. Yeah, so the software engineering hotline thing didn't work out, I guess. Not many people seemed interested in calling in. But yeah, let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching, whoever did stop in. I tried making this a fun thing where like I answered a phone call or something like that, but didn't work out. Next time, hopefully we'll get some more calls in, and yeah,